Hello and welcome to the Standard Education Talks. In this episode, we'll be talking about how a school can prepare students for success through three major areas: character development, curriculum pathways, and a preparation for future careers. So joining us today are three educators from Christian Alliance International School in Hong Kong: Daniel Schick, High School Principal; Anna Han, Assistant Principal, G7 to 12; and Samuel Cheng, Assistant Principal, G7 to 12. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So in recent years, there has been much discussion over the term holistic education. And much of it has to do with the fact that the social character domains are just as important as academics. So, as Hong Kong comes out of the pandemic and with technology and social media continuing to impact every vestige of our lives, do you think character education is now more important than ever?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for having us today. Absolutely, character education, it's always a part of education, but in 2023, as we try to dust ourselves off from the pandemic, I think we've learned a few things about how important student well-being and character development is. One of the factors for us at Christian Alliance International School is we're actually a growing school, and it's been a blessing for us. We have around 1,550 students, and nearly 1,000 of them are primary. In high school, even through the pandemic, which has been amazing, we've seen our student population grow. Next year, we'll have around 620 students. What might be one of the factors behind this? It's quite interesting when you look at the pandemic. We know that the pandemic has been less than ideal for students. Face-to-face learning, we believe, is always the best thing. As they've come back to school and we've left online learning behind us, one of the things that I'm most proud of is the teachers we have at Christian Alliance International School. In the one hand, we think of schooling as, teachers teach and students study and learn and write tests, but that's a very diminutive form of education if that's all it is. That's almost just what you do on Zoom classes. So if information is ubiquitous, I could get that through AI. Or on the one hand, we tell students, you shouldn't have your phone out in the classroom. Well, a few years ago, school was on their phone. And our university or our students going off to university have learned, actually, you can do school online. The question is, what do you miss out on if that's all schooling is? So character education, it has to be explicitly taught. It has to be something that the teachers value. It has to be something that the students have the opportunities to put into practice in their life at the school, on the campus, in leadership, in the curriculum, yes, but also outside the classroom. We're a Christian school. Our theme for this year has been Walk with Wisdom from the Word to the World. Now, we do start with the Word of God. That we think that that's where our character should come from. But we also know that as we've surveyed our parents recently, to ask them some of the measures of education at school, there were two things that really stood out to us. First of all, there was a question. Does your child feel safe, welcome, and respected at school? 96% of the parents said yes. There was another question that stood out. Is your child encouraged to do their best? And it was almost as high as 96%, but well over 90%. From the parent's perspective, what do you want for your child? You want them to go to a school. You want them to feel safe, have a sense of belonging at the school. No one can learn if they don't feel comfortable, if they don't feel like they belong there. They also want the children to be challenged to do their best. So in terms of fostering character education, we do that through things like, we have leadership classes. In grades 7, 8, and 9, I don't know if other schools do this. We made these classes. They are bespoke, custom-made classes where the students learn things about how they can become leaders. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but we're tremendously proud that this year, really bouncing back from the pandemic, we have over 40 student clubs and over 40 sports teams. What we see at CAIS is a vibrant school community tremendous amount of student voice, a lot of leadership, where we have even students and teachers co-leading clubs. So the character education here is tremendously important, and I think that that is reflected in the satisfaction that our parents and students have shown, not only why our school is continuing to grow, but why they say to us, yes, our students do feel like they belong there. They do feel like they're challenged to do their best in all areas of their school life, not just the academics.
So most importantly, we want to nurture resilience and perseverance in students so that they can navigate the complexities of lives as they graduate and as they leave the very safe school environment. But also at the same time being able to apply the skills and the knowledge that they have learned in school and use it in a positive way that can benefit others. So when it comes to character development, what do you think are the most important values or traits that we should focus on?
Yes, so there's so many like characters, this is all important, but there are 5 values in our school system. When you come to visit our school, you will see the 5 values painted on the hillside. So they are love, wisdom, integrity, service, and community. So this year the theme is walk with wisdom. So will everyone want to be known as a wise person? So like in our school, like how does it display? It's displayed through like kindness, compassion, patience, and serving each other. So I think like when you come to the school, the one thing I'm really proud of is the school culture that we're nurturing. Everyone knows this is part of like the role to play in the school. And in other year, we have different focus, like walk with wisdom is this year. Last year is called by love, call to love, and like nerve to serve. Like this, we work on our school value every year.
So compassion, empathy, and community spirits, these are among the major virtues and traits we should be looking at right now. But in practice, could you walk us through how CAIS build character education into students' everyday lives? And I also understand that service learning is big here at the school. So what role does service learning play?
Well, to simply answer, the role that the service learning is playing here at CAIS is very integral and imperative to student learning experience. Just to explain a little bit about what's going on right now here at CAIS, we currently have food drive going on. We have a wonderful student volunteerism club called the Social Justice Club, and within it we have 7 branches, meaning we're working with 7 different NGOs from Hong Kong. In particular, we're working with one NGO that addresses the issue of hunger as well as food waste issue here in Hong Kong. And our students, the wonderful thing about the food drive campaign this year is that it has been all of students' effort. It was the students that had raised this issue first and wanted to come up with an action plan to do something about it. So I just really am so grateful to be part of the journey and history that CAIS is making at the moment as a growing school, as our principal had just said. And so in order for us to see character education being in fruition, we really just look at the student's work itself. But behind every student work, there is also teachers' willingness to spend that extra time and also give that extra energy and effort to motivate our students, to inspire our students beyond academics so that they could really not just take in academically the information that they are receiving in the classroom, but really actively looking for ways that they could implement what they have learned into practice. So that's just one area that I could share with you. In the past, actually just a few months ago, we've had, maybe actually just a few weeks ago, we've had our first ever dance showcase. Now I'm very proud of that also because, you know, the past 4 years, it has been a halt of everything that there is to entertainment and culture building and things like that here at CAIS, as I would assume other parts of Hong Kong too. But our students, 2 student leaders in particular, really spearheaded the entire process, and they curated from performances to lighting to music to everything. It really shows that they are willing to serve our school community in enjoying music together and to give a platform for students to showcase their talent. So it really takes students to go the extra mile to make a project like this come to its fruition and success. You can imagine how time-consuming it must have been, the stress that must have gone into, you know, all the practices and liaising with different parties, you know, around school, teachers, teachers, staff, as well as students, we can really see that our students are willing to really go the extra mile, knowing that their work here is not just serving their own self-interest, but really the interest of the community here at CAIS. And I am really proud of what our students are doing here. It really shows that the service learning is really taking our educational experience further beyond the classroom.
Right, right.
Yes, I want to add to the service learning we have in school. In March, we just have a program called Discovery Day in high school. It's very exciting. Students go outside classroom to do different projects. And then the grade 10 to 12 student project is called servant leadership. So they are doing different service project in Hong Kong. So it's a very exciting opportunity. And next year, because now the pandemic is over, so we are planning to go overseas to participate in a service or mission work. So it's very exciting. Our Alliance Church has a missionary organization, Alliance Global Serve, and then we built a school in Cambodia. So now we can send students over and then they can serve at the school. There's also other connection with missionary in Africa, in the Philippines. Then we really wish to be able to send students to. So I think out of all the different opportunity we can give students, we can have cultural experience, we can have exploration, but I think service is in the heart of our school and also in our mission statement. So that's something we really want to grow.
These are all very exciting, and I think what it does is that it gives meaning to what students are learning within the curriculum. And as Daniel was just saying in the beginning, with so much content and so much information available online, there's a need to help students make sense of that content and also come to grips with the value of that content and how they can use it in a positive way that can benefit others and make this world a better place. Now, talking about curriculum, CAIS is the only international school in Hong Kong offering 3 educational pathways. And we are talking about the Alberta curriculum, the advanced placement, and the IBDP. So with plenty of curriculum options available, what kind of competitive edge do you think it gives to children?
Yes, competitive edge is an interesting way to look at it. Before I answer that question, I just want to share with you an anecdote that came to mind recently. You were asking about how we see character education in practice. Recently, there was a student who applied to come to the school, and he was applying from another international school. And when we interviewed him, he said, earlier this year, we had a sports game, a volleyball game, and I saw your team, and it really stood out to me. And he said, that's where I want to go to school. So we said, well, what is it about that? What did you notice? And he said, it was the coach. It was the way that he coached the students. But I also noticed the way the students responded to him, and there was someone else there. And it happened to be an alumni. It was a student who graduated from our school, and he was there as an assistant coach. And he could see, what is character? How do you define it? I guess it's like beauty. You know it when you see it. And so I think this student just said, he recognized something, and it was compelling enough for him to say, I want to go to school there. And it's just a beautiful story to tell. I was, so proud to hear someone I had never met before hear something like that. When it comes to curriculum, this is also obviously a very large topic, and we could do a whole session just debating the ins and outs of curriculum. First of all, we do recognize that in Hong Kong, it is competitive. There are reasons, why schools are competing for enrollment. So every school, of course, needs strategies and kind of a corporate business sense. But when I think of our school and why we do what we do, it's more so about the motivations of our heart as a school. And that really is for our students to all succeed. So education is not one size fits all. Having a diverse pathway, well, obviously is in favor of the student. It's a competitive edge, you can say that from a school side, but who is the benefit for? The motivation for us is because it benefits the students. As you acknowledge, we're the only school in Hong Kong that has the Canadian curriculum, the IB curriculum, the advanced placement curriculum. In fact, I would add on to that we are the only school in all of Asia that is a Christian school that offers these 3. So we know that we do offer something authentic and unique to the students. In my experience as a teacher, I'm an English teacher. I love literature. I have a passion for it. I've had a chance to be the extended essay coordinator in IB. I've also taught advanced placement English, and I've also taught the diploma for the Alberta. Advising the students on which pathway to take, it really is about giving them a match for their unique characteristic. Students learn in different ways, and the curriculum, well, they have different nuances. Some may have a preference. For example, IB. Our IB coordinator, Ben Myers, is excellent at talking with students and parents about, should I choose IB or should I take AP? AP is rigorous. Advanced placement from the US College Board is a university challenge course. Students working at that level are showing to universities, we're ready for this. In fact, they get university credits for competing those courses. So some people may say they prefer one curriculum over the other. Well, we know that IB will demand the students to have more sense of personal organization and motivation. So finding out which is the best pathway is also meeting with the students and the families and getting to know them individually. What is the best fit for you? So that is an individualized approach. We have the system in place, the curriculum, they're big ideas. But the fact is that a curriculum is a tool. And a tool needs to be, well, it needs to be wielded, in the hands of a master. The teachers need to teach them effectively. And that's why having Mr. Ronald Chan, our university and career advisor, together with IB coordinator, together with the senior leadership team, and really experienced teachers, meeting with the parents and making decisions one-on-one. Should you go this pathway or should you go this pathway? So children are unique, curriculums are also different, and the competitive advantage we have is that we can best serve our students by making sure they're in the best pathway.
So because CAIS offers 3 education pathways, so what subjects and what topics does each one of these curriculum cover?
All right, yeah, I can answer this question. So the Alberta curriculum is very flexible. So in junior high, we have the world languages program, like student can take Mandarin, French, or Spanish. And then also we have the very special in-house leadership program for the junior high student. When they go to senior high, there's many electives they can choose from. So we call them pathway, but the flexibility is they're not stuck in certain pathway. They can select different courses in their senior high year, such as business, computer science, psychology, music, and social studies. So there's a variety of courses they can select from. It's very exciting working in a growing high school. For example, next year we're adding accounting and human geography. So that's we want to continue explore what are other courses and options for our students so that they have more choices.
So these are holistic, rigorous programs on one hand, and on the other, they also allow for greater curriculum flexibility, giving children the choice to focus on subjects they love and therefore will excel in. So with so many subject selections, how do you advise students on making a choice?
Yes, well, I covered this a little bit earlier, but I think the thing here is to consider that as teachers, we often advise students. You can see it really does come down to having a school life where we have more than just a curriculum to cover. I'll give you an example. We have something here which is unique to us. It's called PACT. It stands for Pastoral and Advisory Care Teams. Well, every day after period 2, for 20 minutes, a teacher will meet with a small group of students. And they have the announcements, what's on today, games and reminders. They have a short devotion and prayer. And then they have a theme for the week. Could be a fun theme, like a house event. Could be something related to social justice or awareness, United Nations. It can be a spiritual theme as well. Advising students is something that doesn't necessarily happen while I'm teaching an English class. Advising students depends on student-teacher relationship. And so we have effective teaching happening in the classroom, but it can't stop when the bell goes. Effective relationship needs to continue through programs like PACT. It needs to be a part of the school life. So the student-teacher rapport, it's like when I coach soccer or football. You need to have a good relationship with the students, especially when you're making them run laps, because they will respect and they will listen to you as well. So holistically, advising students comes when it really is a community approach. You have your counselors, you have your trusted teachers, you have, of course, your rigorous curriculum that they can choose from, and you involve the student and parents. So when you have that kind of agency and that kind of authentic interaction, that's where good advising can take place.
So these are really comprehensive support. And if we go back to the IBDP, what do you think are the strengths of the program?
IBDP being an international curriculum, I guess the first thing that our students do enjoy is that they gain the international perspective. And we have English teacher here, we have a math teacher here. I am a social studies teacher, so I'm much more biased towards social studies related subjects. Just to talk a little bit about humanities subject and how, let's say, a lesson has really shown students learning to take place beyond the classroom. I want to talk about a particular case of IB students in history classes where they have been learning about the significance of the Great Wars, and they realize, well, why don't we go and pay a visit to the Hong Kong branch of Royal British Legion and interview the veterans and really gain their perspective. Now, why I thought that was so brilliant was because the students were taking what they have learned in the classroom and contextualized it. And Hong Kong being an international city, there is ample amount of opportunity for us to engage what we have learned in class and apply it in practice. So as you can see, our students really love taking their learning outside of their classroom, but that's only really possible because our teachers are so hands-on with that kind of experience, wanting to give that kind of exposure for our students. So I think this nicely ties into readiness for the future, because gaining international perspective, in my personal opinion, is not enough unless you have a grounded sense of self and understanding of your roots and your identity, where you're from. I think IBDP, not only as a curriculum, but being applied in CAIS context with biblical principle that gives absolute truth, really gives that students that sense of grounding and understanding their identity is first found in Christ. And then they could really apply the global perspective in becoming an international thinker and a risk taker that knows how to practice what they have learned outside of just the bounds of the classroom.
So the IBDP is really the best of both worlds. Yes, it is academically rigorous, but at the same time, it also strives to nurture students in becoming open-minded, critical thinkers. So by stretching themselves in terms of academics and personal development throughout the high school years, it will benefit them in the long term. So besides academic skills, it's also imperative to equip young learners for the real world, because we are living in a world that is drastically changing. In the beginning, we are talking about how Hong Kong is just emerging from the pandemic, and we are reading and hearing a lot about how AI technology like ChatGPT is continuing to transform the way we live and the way we interact with each other. So what do you think are the essential skills or knowledge that will help set students up for success in the 21st century?
Well, as a Christian school and as a Christian educator myself, I believe that we turn to biblical truth and the scripture in order for us to interpret words like success and future, which could be subjective. So I just want to share a Bible verse from Mark 12:30, where it says, love the Lord with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And I love this scripture, this particular verse, because God teaches us that we need to work in all of these three elements coming together. Cannot be just the heart, cannot be just the mind or soul, but it needs to be in this unison of these three elements. Now, if I were to use that and to talk about more tangible skills that we really hope for our students, the graduates, to have and embody before they leave the gates of CAIS, it would be intelligent mind, it would be soft heart, and serving hands. Now, these are universal truth we believe that's worth upholding, because it's not just based on how intellectual you are. It's not just about being the smartest person in the room, but being smart and wise while having a soft heart, the empathetic heart to help and care for those who are in need. But not just stopping there, but using your serving hands to do something about that feeling, that inkling that you have in your heart to do something about about the injustice that you see. So with that said, you mentioned, the world is drastically changing. The education industry, we're all looking at the AI and being a little nervous and also excited about what does this pose for this industry here. But I think this is exactly all the more reasons why Christian education is so important, because it really focuses on integrity and moral, as we talked about the values that our school would like to really foster into our students. So having said all of that, I think it is important for us to keep in mind that the skills that we are setting up for students' success and future is something that's long-lasting, something that is going to give them that foundation so that they could hold their ground even in this fast, ever-evolving, drastically changing world.
So a little bit summary here: intelligence, compassion, integrity. These are some of the traits and the identity and kind of personal values that we should be looking at in this day and age. So we were talking about just now how character education, curriculum pathways, and the preparation for future careers are essential to help students flourish and thrive. So I have one last question that will kind of wrap up what we have covered today. So why is it significant for a school to help students reflect on their own values and whether those align with what they want to do for work?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's difficult for 18-year-olds to know exactly what they want to do for work, but it's part of finding their pathway so that they can explore those options. You talked about values there, and that's really what CAIS is about, instilling Christian values and helping students find their own sense of value and their own sense of worth. Well, from a school perspective, we've been talking about students graduating, going on to university. We don't want just to graduate clever devils, or students who are vying for a limited definition of success, which can be, cutthroat and very corporate. It's funny because if you think that a student who has the highest grades in school, high school and university, is that your indication of success in a workplace? That the student who can perform the best on a test will gain the most promotions, and so on? It's not so. Why is that? Well, it does come down to one of our topics today. We talked about character, and that's where it starts. We talked about curriculum, which is really our business here, and now we're talking about career. It is about what schooling does to a child, what schooling offers to the child, and what opportunities it can unlock for them. When a student starts at a new job, they basically start from scratch. They have their learning from post-secondary education, but they will often be the neophyte, the new person in the, almost everyone they work with knows more than them. So what might be some of those ingredients for success for a child? Well, they need to learn it now. They need to learn, for example, how to communicate well. They need to learn how to grow in their capacities to be a leader. We want CAIS students to put up their hand for leadership opportunities in university, to take risks, to have a strong sense of identity. And let me borrow something from grade 7 leadership course. Be a mango. That's one of our simple lessons for the grade 7 kids. Be a mango. What does that mean? It means, on the outside, you're kind of soft, tasty, so to speak. You can interact with people in a pleasant way. But inside your core, it's rock solid. And that's your sense of belief. That's your foundation and your faith. And that's where you come from. Another anecdote is Samuel was talking about we're building up our university and career counseling services. Just 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, we had a spring CIS University and Career Night. It was a fantastic event. It's not the season at all for applying to universities, but we put it on just to have an extra opportunity for engagement. And we had a guest speaker here, President Dr. Smith from Ambrose University in Canada. We had a number of Hong Kong universities, a few from the UK, and Harvard was here. And we had about 250 students in. We also brought in some of our parents and other professionals who ran booths, professors and doctors and all kinds of careers, really physiotherapists. It was just lovely. Well, the first thing that happened that day was Dr. Smith was speaking to our students, and afterwards he said to our head of school, well, the kids really asked a lot of good questions. He was very pleasantly surprised that after he had finished speaking with them, they were all wanting to ask him questions. later on, as we were wrapping up the event in the evening, I was chatting with Dr. Fu. And he said, you know, one thing that I really noticed is when I talk sometimes at other schools, it's the parents who are always asking me the question, how can I get my son into medical school or my daughter into medical school? He said, your students really ask a lot of questions. So what can prepare a student to succeed, you know, in the future in a workplace? Being inquisitive, having strong communication, learning to build relationships. That's exactly what you would want as a young employee. If we have a new teacher coming into the school, there's that sense of being there to learn, to build relationship. And just to wrap that up, how can we see students, you know, scaffolding up to that in the future? Today, in the classes, in this school here, we want the students first, we want them to understand what we're teaching. If they don't know what we're going on about, they're going to be a bit lost in class. You know, the test won't go so well. The first job of a student is to learn for understanding. Now, students can do that and perform well academically, but that won't necessarily mean they might do well in a workplace. They might know things. We want students to learn to appreciate what we do, what we learn, what we talk about in class. Every student might not necessarily become an English professor, as much as I would want them to be, but I think that they can appreciate the poetry and the Shakespeare that we do. They can have a sense of appreciation of, you know, the diverse subjects that we have here. When students appreciate something, their level of interaction and engagement goes up. The classroom becomes alive. It's a buzz. You know, there's discussion and debate. It's interactive. It's not a stale place of learning or working. And the last part is that the students learn and have responsive action. And that really is coming back to a lot of the things we've been talking about here. Whether it's just students initiating something like dance, it seems pretty simple on its own. But when we see our students, as they so often do, initiating things, bringing proposals, doing things for social justice causes, responding to teachers in class on their curriculum area, that is the kind of student that we want at CAIS. That's our graduate profile. They understand, they appreciate, they respond. And that's the kind of student who in the future will become a successful employee, you know, and colleague.
It really ties into what we were discussing, and because as students are facing so much more challenges than before, it's really important to help them develop positive values, healthy identity, and really guide them on this journey. So thank you, Daniel, for your insightful sharing. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Samuel. And audiences, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time around.